good whatever to you, whenever you're watching this episode of a movie making nerd book club. I've been calling it book review, but it's more proper of a book club. We are getting in granular details. I am your host, Dylan. This is my co-host, Tommy the Spurg Snake. How's it going? It's been a tough one, this chapter, hasn't it?
Yes, this is the first chapter I got fatigue. I think it was right before the holidays. You were like, I got to take a break, and I don't blame you. This is mentally taxing, which you wouldn't think it was, but it does. It starts to get a little bit grating.
For those who are aware of Richard Christie and Sal Governale, they had a series of prank phone calls to radio stations. And it's fun listening to those in a big compilation because you hear the host. Oh, he is just all happy. Welcome to Radio. What have you got for us today? That's how we started this show. We're now in the middle of that Radio compilation where he's like, oh, heck, it's probably those tricksters again.
Yeah.
We're over halfway through, but I don't want to go forward. It's just the fact that I said I started this. We are online. There's public seeing us. That we said, hey, we're going to do this. So that's a motivating factor. Is that we are now in public. Yeah, being in public. We might give this up if we were just doing this on our lonesome. Like, this is fucking good enough. We got our shits and giggles. Now it's just pain.
Yes, all kinds of pain, especially in this chapter. And more. This one you said goes up to S, possibly.
I think I counted S, subchapter S.
I can't believe that this is the style that the book is written in. It shows a little bit of the tism. It's all lists. And in this chapter, he does list a few things.
That's getting on. Well, fuck. Let's just jump on in. Chapter 4A. So this one, I got excited. That's another reason why I was beaten down, because this one's called Moving Day, and it's right after the book that he wrote when he was experiencing this stuff. I'm like, all right, time jump. We're going to have a time jump. This is him moving out from college. So, James, what's the subtitle of this one? I just said it.
Chapter 4, My 20s. Section A, Moving Day.
Ugh.
And let's go right to, before we comment, let's go right to the first clip. This is the first thing that James says in that chapter.
It was official. I got my reacceptance letter from the university. I was coming back and ready to finally start my sophomore year.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Oh, Tim Roth.
I was looking for some type of fuck you when I realized, oh my God, we are not going forward at all. We are still stuck in the beginning of sophomore year. God damn it. Where the fuck is Mike Matei? He's been Poochie this entire time. Where is Mike Matei? What's Mike Matei doing? That's all we fucking want to see. This should have been page 33 right here, the start of this chapter, where we start getting little elements of what we want to hear for the very first time.
I'm trying not to laugh at your misery so much here, but yeah, seeing you being frustrated makes me feel better about my frustration with this. It's his terrible 20s instead of his terrible twos. This is his terrible 20s. I'm glad I called it that early on, because as you get into this more and more sections, the first one is moving day. Yeah, like you feel like he's going somewhere, and it's right back to college. So we're gonna have to deal with the last 2 years of college, which would start out kind of sad in this chapter. But one of my
that he lists this, like this whole episode, this whole chapter is 20s, when really he's listed it wrong. It should be like the college years. We could have jumped right over these college years, but he's got kind of like the nerd creation mixed up with the college years still. And this takes a sharp turn at some point, this moving day, as this clip will illustrate.
Oh, yes.
I said The clip will illustrate it.
My apartment was unfurnished and completely empty, so I commuted for a couple weeks until my dad was available to help me move. We loaded his van with all my necessities, a mattress, a TV, a computer, a book.
So there's a few things that James wasn't able to transport in his car. Showing once again that he's more child than man, he's unable to rent a U-Haul on his own. And, all right, Dad, you're off of work. You can help me load this up. I'll get a 6-pack for Bootsy, maybe he knows Bootsy. It's kind of ambiguous. He may or may not know Bootsy at this time period, but he has these friends popping in and out. Lucas, at some point, is mentioned, who's never mentioned before and is never mentioned again. We got a first and last name at the end of last chapter. I forget what that guy's name was, somewhere here in my notes. But the clip isn't over, because this was a very particular day.
Oh, before you hit play
bookshelf.
Again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right there. He's in the list. So it's like, I brought my mattress, my TV, my bookshelf, my banjo, my tough 80s wood desk. Like, it's such, sorry about that. It's such filler right there. Like, I just want to keep the list going. My fish tank, I loaded up it's like, come on, dude. We don't need to hear every individual piece of furniture. You started, like, also, yes, he's very reliant on his father. I think we're going to find out a little more as you play right here.
And to answer a question in the chat before I restart it, I guess we're going to have to wait until the last chapter to see if Bimmy really did not try Pepsi. That sounds something worth noting. Judging how he's noted all the other things, he gave a book review of the DMV Beginner's Guide in this book, so I imagine that we'll get his first taste of Pepsi as we go forward. Yeah, as overpacked as this book is, you're 100% right. My large items instead of the desk, the fish tank,
and it reminds me of a bit from Futurama, that Bender one where he keeps pulling stuff out of his compartment. His two banjos.
If only he had a robot friend like Butters and Fry had. My robot friend.
Yeah,
computer, a bookshelf, and set the date. I marked it on the calendar. It was a day I looked forward to with happiness and excitement. But now that date can only be looked at with shock, horror, and sadness. The date was September 11th, 2001.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Just very inappropriate. This kind of reminds me of, I forget whose autobiography I read that just randomly talked about the Kennedy assassination. Had no impact on this person, just like James. He's never been in the military. He doesn't have anyone in the military. It didn't impact his life in the Pine Barrens or in Philadelphia where he went to school. It just seems very inappropriate. So I asked my new buddy, AI, to whip up a song for me that was equally inappropriate about this day.
9/11, let's count and see. 9/11, come learn with me. With the hop and skip, we'll count today. Count and sing it, hooray, hooray. Count them up, have some fun. 9/11, everyone.
You didn't need to mention this. This has no impact on your life story, on the creation of the nerd. But like I was in math class. I was learning algebra. Bam. I'm not going to spend a fucking dozen pages talking about it.
Well, I'm going to show my age here. I was getting off of work at 7:00 in the morning. I was sitting down watching cartoons, and when they interrupt the cartoon channel to show you the news, you got to watch. I think I was on my second or third beer. It was 8:30 in the morning. I saw the second plane hit, and that was like, I had to wake my roommates up. I was like, dude, I think something bad's happening, like really bad. They were like, what? And
Tom Bosley is not on TV anymore. I'm trying to see what happens when we wait till the father gets home, but I can't.
He does. He goes on for about another paragraph and a half, maybe a page or so. This kind of shit doesn't happen. Like, he's like, this kind of shit just never happens. Like, he puts that sentence in here. And he was also never the same. And he followed his dad's lead. They hopped out of the van and ran over to the first place they could to go watch the TV where his father yells at a janitor to turn on the TV.
You recall more of this subchapter than I do. I think my brain kind of turned off at that point of them
I was still
going
in
into
it.
a random bar and talking to the local folk.
You'll see where I start tapping out because the notes get shorter and shorter. But
And
yeah,
that's all for that chapter. I started moving. 9/11 happened. On to the next subchapter, basically.
yeah. I think he tried to show a little bit of like he was with his dad. He followed his dad. I am starting to think he was a dad's little guy. You know, you were talking before about how his parents moved in with his grandparents. What was going on there? I think his dad was the one. Like, I got a special little guy, and I'm going to stick with him. While mom did a lot of the disciplining, parenting, whip crack.
We'll go for that, because as much as he wasted our fucking time for 150 pages, we do know very, very little about his parents.
Yeah, somebody in the chat told me what his dad did. He was a baker.
Yes, thank you, folks from the Cinemassacre the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit for letting us know that he was a baker. Because we didn't get that information from this book. A lot of wasted time from the young years. No idea that he was a baker.
Right.
Chapter 4B, Social versus Stable.
So this sounds like James is struggling between the financials and being a social Sally. And he has been an awkward, non-social person. So James is alone in his new studio apartment, the one that he had with guitar guy Justin Kyle or Kyle Justin. I keep reversing
Justin
those.
Kyle.
The university was like eminent domain. These are for freshmen now. So now he's in a studio apartment all by his lonesome. And I have to applaud the dean. The dean was playing 4D chess with this outcast, with this social weirdo who was expelled. So James became the dean's assistant, and the dean, what an incredible human for noticing this guy could be a problem for society. Let me try to get close to him and change that.
I even got a part-time job as the dean's assistant. He had offered it to me, and it was a very easy job. All I did was pick up his phone, acting as a human answering machine, or I'd go down the street to get us coffee. I got a lot of one-on-one time with the dean, talking casually. Things were relaxed. A surreal thought.
So the dean's got him right next to him, got him a part-time job, and James, I'm surprised he's able to function in society. I want to learn more about his wife, actually. What is she doing? Is she the adult next to this person who can't function in polite society?
Yeah, no, the dean roped him in and kept a close eye on him.
The dean saw a 5150 not in progress, but a future 5150. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. So big ups to the dean for making James do something other than I don't know. He wasn't even doing anything during this time. He was making a fucking student film about a cockroach because he was so alone. Well, that was last chapter anyway.
Yeah, I know. And he mentions the dean has passed away in this chapter too. Like I guess back in 2015 or so, James went to get into contact with him and found out he passed away, or maybe more recent, like when he was doing this book. Is it Kyle Justin? Somebody in the chat corrected me. I think it.
Yes,
I was
Josh Lane brought it up, and we keep saying it wrong. We keep giving him the first name Justin, Kyle Justin, not Justin Kyle. And that was the early flash of like, ooh, here's someone we want to hear about. Let's hear more about him. Nope, not a thing. When we were roommates, I never saw him. I was just depressed and stayed at my parents' house.
And when he does hang out with Justin, it's usually at a bar and Justin's playing wingman. Those are the only other references I've ever caught. Or Kyle. I keep saying Justin. It's Kyle. Kyle's reference.
I was happy to find
the dean. That's like James was happy to be the dean's assistant. I think the dean stepped into like a kind of fatherly role for him. You know, like, okay.
Yeah, he needed his home dad and his school dad And
Yeah.
Dean stepped up to the plate on that one. So thank you, Dean.
I was
Yep.
happy to finally attend film classes, and my professional life was stable and peaceful. However, sitting in my apartment by myself got boring and lonely. My only social interaction came from telemarketers who would call periodically.
Like right now, I feel my professional life is like at a 9, and my personal life is at like a 2.
It was like the reverse of terrorizing telemarketers. Jim Florentine made a whole album of fucking with telemarketers, but James is like making friends with telemarketers. That's a whole different comedy album that could have been released.
Yeah, no kidding. And again, he's doing like senior citizen behavior. He's just like, oh, hey, what's up? They're like, hey, what's up, James? You want to change your long distance carrier? And he's like, nah, man, but I do want to talk about Castlevania 2. You know, so I don't know what he was doing there. Like, what do you mean social interaction?
So this chapter has so little going on. James goes back to the old reliable of telling other people's stories that doesn't belong in his own autobiography.
The friends once showed me a tape where one of them ran through a hallway with a chair and smashed an overhead exit sign. It exploded in a shower of sparks. My friend was aware it was terrible, probably the worst thing he ever did, drunk out of his mind. Thankfully, I wasn't there.
I wasn't there. This person isn't named. You've done this a lot with the room goers. No, this guy is just the friend of a friend. Doesn't belong in your book.
Right. And it was one of the former friends from college. Like he went to his old college room goers apartment, new apartments, and it was too wild for him. He'd hang out and drink. And then when things started to get a little too wild, when somebody busted out a hard drug, I'm imagining, he was like, okay, gotta go. Because he also talks about a friend who smashed their head into a drywall like pillar. It's like one of those pillars there. And he says his legs were sticking out, and he tells some of these stories like they're cartoonish. He's a third party observer, and we get basically what most of us did through college, or at least at that time in our 20s.
That's what's coming up in the next subchapter, especially.
Chapter 4C, the Vodka Night.
This is just so uneventful. But actually, let's start before we get to the Vodka Night, because this is a whole setup. This is an eventful day. So James is now a goody-goody who feels okay experimenting with alcohol, unlike before when it was forbidden. So he's 21. It's okay because it's legal. And here's one of the lists. James spends way too much time talking about how he does not like weed. Didn't need to be in your book, especially the list of I don't like weed because this. Listed 1 through like 7.
Yeah, I know. And did you clip that or no?
I didn't clip the weed. What weed made him do? That was just like another. At this point, I was like, "Why is this in your book?" And I just clipped that last clip of "Why is this in your book?" So I didn't clip the next one of "Why is this in your book?"
All right, last chapter, real quick, because I forgot to mention it's bummed out, bored Bimmy, because that whole section was about him sitting alone in his apartment and being bummed out. And this one, Vodka Night, he's super square. It's more L7 squaredness out of this guy. He goes on a rant about weed. He's like, well, number 1, it's illegal. Number 2, and then he says something else for number 2 and number 3. And then he goes, I tried it and this is what happened. And he listed number 1 was nothing happens. Number 2 was his eyes turn red and puffy and he vomits. Number 3 was he hallucinates. And he spent time staring at a lamp fixture that changed into something else. Was it laced? I don't know. Like he says it like that. Like it could have, like somebody slipped him something in a joint. And 4 and 5 were exactly the response that you're supposed to get. I would have an insatiable appetite, number 4. And number 5 was I would laugh so hard I would lose air in my lungs. Like he would start cracking up so much that he couldn't breathe. And then embarrassment.
See, as a seasoned stoner, I eat before I smoke. So hopefully the munchies will not hit as hard and take away some of that high that I'm trying to sustain. but
Exactly.
James don't care about that.
No,
next-
but he
Go
goes
ahead.
to say it's real. This is what got me. He was like, so I at least I obviously tried it 5 times. It's not for me. I hate weed. And I was like, dude. He was like, so. I think people offer it to him at conventions all the time. Like, hey,
It
do
would
you want
make
to go out
sense.
back and smoke a joint?
All the video game and now music venues that different things he's going to. Of course, there's people, but let's remember, James doesn't want his experience to be sullied by drugs or alcohol. That was from like chapter 1, I think, where we were pointing and laughing at him.
Yeah,
Good
he
old
was
square
very.
James.
Rasta Bimmy no more, even though that is on the cover. I love that picture. He doesn't like weed, and that disappoints me.
So this next
Just a
clip
little.
made me laugh out loud. I was listening to this in public and quiet for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, this made me burst out laughing. James goes to meet Ozzy Osbourne at a record store promotional release event, and here he is recounting that.
And then Ozzy showed up in a van. Soon they let us in. Security was tight. I had to throw away a VHS tape of a homemade Black Sabbath music video I edited. I wanted to give it to Ozzy, but they wouldn't let me. Oh well.
He made a VHS tape, recorded one of Ozzy's videos, and put his own visuals over top of it. Like,
Yes.
to me, I thought of someone bringing a diorama to Ozzy at this record release. Look, Ozzy, here you are, where you're eating the bat, and the executives are all flipped out. I did try a couple of more songs in the AI. Boring Bimmy and the Room Goers didn't get the result I was looking for. But that's definitely going to be the name of my AI band. Boring Bimmy and the Room Goers. I did start dabbling in AI art. So I was like, I want to see the nerd give Ozzy Osbourne a diorama. Grok doesn't know what James Rolfe looks like. It knows Ozzy, but Grok doesn't know what James Rolfe looked like. So I had to try a couple of different things. The nerd is balding and very excited. Ozzy is unamused. And the white button-up shirt. And,
right. Give the AI something to work with.
And one with the VHS tape. So I had that's what's helping me get through this book without self-harm, is immediately trying to go and find these video clips to accompany the audio with, or just fiddle fucking with AI for an hour. And this is only like 30 pages that we got through since the last time we got here. These aren't, it's not fun to read at all.
It's
so surprising.
A grocery list. It's like, hey, dude, I went shopping and then I picked up some milk and then I saw a friend at the grocery. Like, it's one of those types of stories, but it's his memoirs, and I guess a lot of this is supposed to mean something to him.
I understand a first draft. This is just like his movie. Everything James writes in long form feels like a first draft, no matter how many times he's gone and edited it. Because that's edited it. I'll get that pronunciation down one of these days. The movie, when I was watching behind the scenes stuff and they were talking about more drafts of the script, I was like, no. You touched the script? You seriously did things to the script after initially shitting it out on the floor. You're fucking kidding me. But apparently he did.
I'm not. I don't know if I believe all of that. There was minimal editing. Just minimal editing. There was nothing going on there.
But back to this chapter of the vodka night, the vodka incident. So James has an eventful day, meeting his absolute hero, Ozzy Osbourne. Unfortunately, his present got thrown away. Took a picture. Oh yeah, I actually do have the picture.
Did you clip that
in his?
I was looking for it. I put it in a folder, and now I can't find it. There it is.
Let me get that bigger for the viewing audience. There he is.
Yeah.
They both look like they don't want to be there.
They're both making that same smile. It's just like, yep.
Mm.
Ozzy's like, yep.
That
Yep.
toothless, not really smiling smile. So that's him meeting Ozzy at the record release there, and a little bit of a better view of that AI art that I was going through a moment ago. That was especially silly. So he's got to show this photo off. He goes to his buddy's house, and James has this way of introducing new characters. He did it with Kevin Finn, and he did it with Bootsy too, of this build up.
I think you did it with all three of them.
But we haven't gotten to the
Bootsy.
third.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the third
Because-
is Poochie is still to come. Poochie got the biggest build-up of anybody, because I have it right here in my notes. This feels like the build-up to Mike Matei, and it took him a while to finally say Mike Matei.
With the
Poochie
Ozzy thing,
eventually appears, yes.
yeah, no, and he very shortly here too. It was his idol Ozzy Osbourne, and he went alone. He called his rock and roll friend to go, and he was like, "I can't, dude." And then they made him throw away the tape, and he was like, "I stared my hero in the eyes," and blah blah blah. It was a little too romantic for my taste to write about Ozzy Osbourne. And
He
also,
gets
what a
very
weird
romantic
hero to have.
talking about dudes. Same with Kevin Finn. Anytime Kevin Finn comes up, it is just very dreamy.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that with some of these guys. And Ozzy was definitely one. He's like, I love it. He had to, like you were mentioning, he had to run and show this picture. He's like, look what let's go to this friend's house, which is what he says in the book. Like I interrupted you.
Trying to see where he introduces Bootsy's. Oh yeah, he told a little random side story of ordering a pizza under the name Bootsy. It was kind of odd the way he introduced Bootsy.
Right.
And
yeah. His friend, I gotta go pick up pizza, and then he would get there, and he would be like, "Yeah, pizza for Bootsy." I wonder if that's his last name or if it's just something that he was called as a kid. Lil Bootsy.
So I took another.
We're not quite sure of that. We will be going through a few more parts of this self-abuse, Rini. I don't think you need to call anybody. It does have an end to when we will be doing this against ourselves. And gosh darn it, the big guy is going against me, huh, Sam Bibley? He's not supposed to be on for a couple of hours. Well,
Yeah.
thanks to you folks who are indeed joining this episode. And let's get to James. He starts having a great time at Bootsy's apartment, right downstairs from his own.
So I took another
Bootsy.
shot and another, and it washed away my social anxiety. It made it easier to talk to the girl, and she seemed to return my enthusiasm. At one point, she grabbed my arms and danced with me in a circle. I was in heaven.
You know, when you grab a woman's breast and you feel it, and it feels like a bag of sand when you're touching it.
James kind of dips in and out of talking about girls up to this point. It gets a little more heavy with the I still don't have a girl in this chapter. This sounded just like a 40-year-old version. She danced with me in circles. It was the greatest night of my life.
Yeah, he was having fun drinking some spirits that night. Bootsy loves baseball. And so he's hanging out with Bootsy and this girl and another guy that is unnamed as of right now. And yeah, he gets a little loosey-goosey. He feels good about himself.
This night, it just sounds like Friday to me. This drinking too much vodka. To me, it would be whiskey or rum. Usually a beer guy, but if I was going to go too far, it would be whiskey or rum. For James, it's vodka. And I call this clip P.S. Ames. The next morning, we had a PSA from James a couple of chapters ago, and here's another one of him talking of the evils of vodka.
I thought I was dying. I still had my shoes on with no memory of anything that happened since my idiotic vodka chugging. I was told later I had finished the entire bottle. I consumed an entire bottle of 80 proof alcohol. I should have been dead. Why did I do that? What did I think would happen? Fucking idiot. I hated myself for it.
This.
Vodka.
This is what happens to your brain after snorting.
Vodka.
And this is what your body goes through. Wait, it's not over yet. This is what your family goes through. And your friends and your money!
I remember that. That was, the new take on your brain on drugs.
And she was, I forgot how damn good that actress was in that PSA. Should have got her in a part in your movie, James. Someone who's actually an actress. But that's what it felt like to me. Why did I do this? Vodka is so terrible. It just took me back to the most over-the-top PSA I could think of. Yeah, the new variant. The 70s, of course, was just a fried egg. They were like, we need to up this for the 90s.
Yeah, that was the 90s were the extreme era, dude. Extreme sports, extreme beef jerky, extreme knitting. I don't know. I couldn't think of a good third one. Yeah. It's another death. That he was like, I was dead. Like, I think he truly thinks he was dead because he just drank himself blackout. Drunk.
Now, since you were talking about extreme knitting, I can't help but think of stabbing someone in the neck and then going back to your little pattern. This sounds like a nice little addition to the sketch show, extreme knitting.
Yeah, definitely melee attacks.
That's why Grandma uses only red yarn. It's gonna be red by the end of the competition anyway.
Right on.
So then we finally get the roommate of Bootsy, the big ol' name reveal, because James forgot his Ozzy picture. The Ozzy picture is still in Bootsy's house. So while he's going through this big, drugs are bad, alcohol is bad, got to get the picture.
He led me to his room and grabbed the photo. Here you go. As I retrieved my precious snapshot, I noticed a bookshelf full of video games, Nintendo, Sega, all the classic stuff, especially Atari. Wow, this guy liked Atari a lot. Vintage game consoles were everywhere, even ones I'd never seen before except in magazines and commercials. You have 3DO? Atari Jaguar? Yeah, you want to play something? NES? No, I want to play some Jag. I forgot his name, so I asked him again. Mike, Matei.
What happened? Bootsy's here! R.I.P. Bob Euchre.
Yes.
I know too much of how this works. Just looking at the extras running onto the field, you can see some giving it like a yeah, as if they were actual fans, all excited to rush the field, and some are just like, oh, we're supposed to run this way without any passion. And maybe it's not as obvious to others. Maybe I'm just trying to look for that bad extra, which may or may not be me, depending on if the assistant director said, hey, take it down a notch.
And no
Mike
cartwheels,
Matei.
please.
Mike Matei is here, so I am happy now. This is what the audience is looking for. We've got James. We've got Bootsy. We have got Mike Matei. And the way that James said Mike Matei weird there, because Matei was in parentheses.
Oh, Atari Jaguar? Yeah, you want to play something? NES? No, I want to play some Jag. I forgot his name.
It's on CBS in the evenings, James. That's where you can play some Jag.
I didn't have one, but thank you. I was looking for that joke.
Name, so I asked him.
That's the only joke he can do. I don't know a single reference from Jag. For some reason, I'm thinking David Alan Grier was on that. I think that's just because he's Dag, D-A-G.
Oh, okay. Yeah, where is David Alan Grier? He's a funny motherfucker.
Don No Soul Simmons. David Alan Grier. Are you familiar with Amazon Women on the Moon?
No.
Then you've never seen Don No Soul Simmons.
Yeah,
I
I
was
didn't know
familiar
that.
with that movie before the Futurama episode. So the one named Amazon Women in the Mood, I'm like, oh, just like the sequel. It's a spiritual sequel to Kentucky Fried Movie.
Okay, I'll look into it. You know me, I'm always down for a good comedy.
Yeah, Kentucky Fried Movie, a bunch of random sketches, as was Amazon Women on the Moon, which I would much rather be talking about than Chapter 4D right now.
Chapter 4D, Sophomore Film.
That was my reaction when we got the gang all together and we're
We'll just go
talking
right
about
back to it.
your sophomore fucking film. God damn it.
See, this is where editing needed to be taken more serious. And I don't mean like technical, oh, you missed a comma, blah, blah, blah. This is so out of order. Like he just, okay, he gave you a little insight. I just met motherfucker Mike and he has all the NES games. That's basically what that last story was him meeting Bootsy. Or not, introducing Bootsy to the book because he's mentioned him as a friend 100 times. Now you got to go back and place Bootsy as the friend. But no, yeah, he goes back to films now. Now he's a senior in film school, or a sophomore rather, sophomore second.
Yeah, he is 21 currently, and as was asked, this is 40 sub chapters into his life. Very few chapters, a fuck ton of sub chapters. I said it right out of the gate. The style in episode 1, the formatting, all fucking wrong.
Yeah, no, I
And so
agree.
little has happened into his life. I believe it was Principled Uncertainty was here last time, saying that this guy is doing a better job of sinking his own reputation than anyone else could.
Yeah, there's no way that anybody could have dug any of this up without him putting it out there. 100%.
So James started veering into what people were buying this book for. The trio is together, who you all know and love, and now we're back to this shit. What is this shit anyway? It's something about a toilet.
It came from the toilet, 2001, cost about $200 for the 16mm film stock, plus a few grocery supplies, peanut butter and chocolate syrup, the recipe for fake feces. I needed an actor who was willing to get covered in it. Everybody was hesitant. So I went to Mike Matei, only a month after I vomited on his floor, and asked, would you be willing to get covered in fake shit? That's fine. I don't fucking care. He was a brave soul, and thus began a rich tradition of me covering Mike in fake shit.
Yes, that's what we want to hear about. But instead, we hear about the archaic methods of editing that the college was teaching them, where they literally cut the film, and that Final Cut and Premiere were exclusive to photography students. And that's all the notes I have for this chapter. Oh, but I do have one more clip of the movies that they presented to the students in sophomore year.
The films they subjected us to were torture.
That's the clip. The films they subjected us to were torture. Oh, so unaware. James's self-awareness is like so poor. I don't know if he recognizes himself in the mirror. I bet he screams to his wife every morning, April, there's a bald man brushing his teeth in our bathroom.
That's you, dear. Oh.
Still?
Real quick before, yeah, I know. That's kind of partially why I was late backstage. I kept looking for a hat, and I was like, oh, if I get too obsessed with that, then I'm just as bad as Rolfe. Before we get too far away, Mike walks into the room and sees James there and says, oh, you're the guy that made 90 films? And James says 93. Like unironically answers, yeah, it's 93. And then Mike laughs in his face right there, like a cat. And James says it's a cackling laugh. James has a reputation on campus, not the one I think he wants, and I don't think he knows about it. But it also ties into the weed thing. I think James is the kid that people sold oregano to. Like he was like, "Hey, can I get some weed from you?" He'd be like, "Yeah, sure. Let me run to the kitchen real quick." He tells us the story. They were drinking Rolling Rock because the chapter there. I don't know if we passed it or not. I think that might be later, but they drink a lot together.
Rolling Rock and Rygar is the next chapter.
Okay, so I don't want to get too far ahead, but that's James is the guy that was sitting there drinking with them, and he was talking about one-upping. Like, I think he starts to get a little obnoxious when he drinks. But I think we'll get to that.
Well, he's got his reputation might be that of the accidental narc. That he was able to come back, but a lot of those other students who were in that accidental narking video, they're not coming back.
Yeah, good point. And the one other thing I wanted to make, because they had to sneak into the computer labs. That was like their thing, to go sneak in the photography computer lab. And then he got permission to use one of the things. Like, you can use it, but somebody has to be in there with you. And he sat in a hallway for 8 hours and felt like he should have been rewarded for it. Like, I should have got some award for dedication. I was like, dummy, after an hour of waiting and the guy didn't show up, leave. Then come back the next shift. Don't just sit there.
Yeah, because they were students. Most of these were students, and some people don't give a shit about this shift. So he's not coming in today, but James wasn't getting that. He was going to get in to fiddle fuck around with that Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, he felt like he needed to be right there the whole time. As soon as that door opens, and then he goes on to say it was for 2 projects that weren't even school related. He was working on his own shit on his own time.
Because he always had that. He's always making movies. ABC, always be creating. That's James's motto. Let's roll on to chapter 4E, and I have the first line of dialogue along with this because I felt it proper to include a video clip at the end.
Chapter 4E, Rolling Rock and Rygar. By junior year, I counted 100 movies in my filmography.
Good.
Your 100 films in your the 100 films makes me want to punch you in the face.
That's what else motherfucker Mike said. He's like, Spielberg don't have that many films. He ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, I want to say
Kubrick made a movie.
I
think of Kubrick and Charlie Chaplin. I think Charlie Chaplin's circus movie took over a fucking year to film. There's quantity. James is going after quantity. I'll leave it at that. You are a quantity person, Mr. Rolfe, with you and your 100 films. That gets me to. I would absolutely punch you in the face if you went that pretentious on me in person. And I don't. It's been a very long time since I've punched a person. James, you are turning me violent.
Yes. Yeah. He could do that. He's prolific. That's what I think we would call James. He's a prolific film director.
So on to fucking junior year. Fucking snail trailing our way along to his junior year, and James smelled his own farts by taking an assignment and turning it into a documentary of himself. I've got a little clip of that.
But in the end, I felt a bit like I was reaching awkwardly to pat myself on the back.
That could be this entire book of you reaching around awkwardly to pat yourself on the back. That's a better title, reaching around awkwardly to pat myself on the back, than a movie-making nerd.
That's track number 1 for Bimmy and the Room Goers is going to be back pen. This is so 4E, right? He's still a dateless dork. This is where he starts complaining more about not getting girls and not being able to balance his time. No time for James and his.
Yeah, in my notes, it's Bames is depressed over being a 21-year-old virgin with no prospects of sex.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on here.
So that's what this chapter is all about. Rygar and Rolling Rock. The main thing we got out of it is like, I want a woman.
Yeah, I called them the 3 goofcateers. I think I said it right. It's in my head. It's the three goofketeers, and they were doing what dateless losers do. They sit around, drink, and play video games, and smoke weed and do stuff.
Which is cool if you're not a whiny little baby about it. At that point, it's lame.
Yeah, I spent most of my 20s doing a lot of that, except there was still a mall. We went to the mall, and like you would meet people and pick up chicks. It wasn't that difficult, but it wasn't 100% score batting average either. And Kyle Justin gets a mention again in here, and he's like telling James to just be confident, and James gets a little snarky.
I have that right here. Let's listen to the words that Kyle Justin had.
My classes were mostly guys. Most of the girls were in the photography, dance, and even animation departments. Sometimes I felt
okay, that did get me to laugh at him. He stopped doing animation because it was too lonely several chapters ago. And now, if I was in animation, I could meet girls. Take a flower design elective. There's girls in flower design. And when I took flower design, I found out that I was a very natural at design. Even the people at Edible Arrangements were like, oh, wow, you're a natural. What else can I smell my own farts about, just like James? It's contagious.
Well, at least you're telling an audience that wants to know about you. It's like, dude, that is an interesting tidbit about Dylan from somewhere. If I need you to get approval, like I can send you images and you'd be like, nah, that don't look right. And I could trust your eye now.
But this clip actually isn't over. We just got James complaining. Kyle Justin has something to say to him.
I chose the wrong major. The few girls I knew I got along with fine, but I couldn't figure out if they were available or even interested. How could I bring it up? I went to parties, bars, and even clubs with Kyle. He was like my personal counselor through all this, always trying to help me out. Just be confident, he kept telling me.
Get confident, stupid.
Chunkster right there with it too.
Star Chunkster was way ahead of me. That's a couple minutes old.
That got me. That was the highlight of my day. Thanks,
It certainly isn't anything out of this book, but laughing at this book, that can be a highlight of the day. This is very much a Mystery Science Theater 3000 in book form rather than movie form. It hurts to watch on your own, but having a buddy to point and laugh at it, this can be tolerable.
Yeah, I do like the idea of this book club, like expanding it to a book club kind of thing. That's shop talk. We can get into that later.
We could use some more suggestions. I'm down to do this, preferably either autobiography and or self-published. Those would be the ones that pique my interest the most to do another book club on. Autobiography and or. And actually, this is inspired by our buddy Carl Hamburger, who did this with Stuttering John, and him and Blind Mike are currently doing it with Julia Fox. That is that's a doozy, that one. So thank all you celebrities for saying, I don't need no stinking publisher. So we can do this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, real quick, that's a thing. There is a booktube thing going on, and the one that I was watching was Crimson Rogue. He's a pretty interesting guy. And he goes in depth about how the bad writing of these books and plot hole, it's very interesting. So yeah, I definitely think.
So Crimson Rogue, if any of you folks are interested in some more book club type evisceration of some things.
He does long form, like 8-hour videos, and I'm not into that. We'll stick to the 2
Oh shit, the red bar of books.
Yes, there you go. He would be the red bar of books. Good point. Excellent comparison.
So James has these flashes of self-awareness, and then we get it's just back to like, you're the second coming of Christ. He's it's okay. It's okay to me that he does not find his true love at this time. Because he has got someone very important in his life.
I moved into a new apartment with Kevin. It was a complete shithole. It was full of rats. The toilet wouldn't flush. The shower wouldn't drain. The fridge didn't work. But it was great seeing Kevin more often, though he was always busy working on his senior film. This was another sad reminder that I was a year behind him.
That's great. Ba, ba, ba,
I should have kept the whole
ba,
thing in there.
No, you're right. Yeah,
The theme song, I cut it in half to not have it go too far. Kevin Finn is like the love of James's life based on the way he's writing this book. The way he's writing this book, he should be coming out of the closet and realizing he's actually a homosexual within the next several years. The way he's talking about Kevin Finn.
He does wax poetic on Kevin Finn, who's
there's
really
something
a
else he
nobody.
waxes on Kevin Finn too.
Heyo. Oh yeah, I gotta get that Earl. Hello.
Hello, Frisco. Oh, so many good drops. And while I'm doing this, I'm discovering some drops that I should have had on here the whole time. Oh, I still didn't put the Kingpin drop on there. Who you calling a psycho? Once I got that, I was like, this should have been on the board the entire time. Like this.
You're not really listening to me, are you?
I've got 3 from that scene in Wayne's World. I was surprised once I started getting pulling the clips. I was like, oh, this whole thing has a whole bunch of good drops in it. But enough patting myself on the back. I can't stop patting myself on the back. Holy fuck. This book is going to have me sucking my own cock by the end of this. But then again, if I do that, I can get on Strip Chat and make a good amount of money. Oh boy. I'm going down a rabbit hole of wordplay. Back to the book, I suppose.
Back to boozing and gaming. Yes, correct.
Rygar. Yeah, this is Rygar and Rolling Rock, the chapter we are still in. The E4. I have the Proto Nerd. This is on chapter 161. Like the first crumb. We're getting into crumbs of what the fans want out of this book.
We noticed a lot of flaws in games that we forgave as kids.
Oh, so this is them playing, like just playing video games down in Bootsy's apartment.
Kids.
Yes.
Take the Castlevania series, for example. Why did staircases ascend to nothing? What purpose did that serve? Who would eat old turkey they found in a wall? We'd get on a roll, tearing these games apart and laughing our asses off. Next thing, I'd be shouting random things like shit soup and shit in God. My friends cracked up over it, so I had to keep topping myself. Shitload of fuck! Soon they were rolling on the floor, howling.
Simple insight, but the insight we've been looking for this whole time. This was inspired by us drinking Rolling Rock and making each other laugh. And the nerd was begat.
Basic, yeah, pretty much. This is because he also calls one of these subchapters Prelude to Nerd or something, pseudo nerd, whatever. Yeah, these Dateless.
I think that's the last one we're covering of the day, where he actually has a prelude, proto, one of those type of the nerd. So then once again, the end of chapter E, I'm getting excited, just like the end of last chapter. You're giving the fans what they want. It's nothing revolutionary, but this is exactly what we wanted. It was, we were fucking around, and bam, there's the angry video game nerd. So then on to chapter 2 or 4F.
Chapter 4F, junior film.
Before we get too far away, he mentions passing out at Bootsy and Mike's place.
Oh yeah, I skipped right over why this was called Rygar and Rolling Rock.
Yeah, well, I'll get you there real quick. That's what she said. Anywho, he mentions this game Miracle Piano. Like he passed out drunk and he woke up to leave, but he woke up to Bootsy playing Miracle Piano, and that's really interesting to me. I was like, because he does that a couple times. He just mentioned something and you don't know what it is. You got to go look it up. It was a SNES game that had a MIDI keyboard input, and you would play along with the game, kind of like Guitar Hero, but for Super Nintendo or Nintendo. It was a really interesting thing, and he's never reviewed it in his show. Not like in a good way or a bad way.
And you had to go out and look for that information yourself. I did not look for, so I had no idea that this was an early version of Guitar Hero, like Piano Hero that he was playing.
Yes.
Yeah, just mentioned this is what he was playing. kind of
Yeah,
like
well,
he was playing Duck Hunt and Super Mario, as if we would all know Magic Piano on the SNES.
Yeah, and it's a really neat peripheral too. Like there's a lot of neatness that goes with it. The Super Nintendo one goes for $150, and it has old school floppies with it, and you can use it with your Mac too, or whatever, like your home PC at the time, 1992, 93. So just to give you an idea. But yeah, like he does that. He just mentions shit and then keeps on going. So, and which we're getting to, more steamrolling through.
We can we don't have a single clip for these next couple of chapters. The junior film, like I was like, for fuck's sake, really? Let's see, my notes, student film, blah blah blah. Another remake of A Night of Total Terror. Oh, okay. This is actually eventful of when this film was screened with the other junior finals. James really blows himself again talking about the audiences. And he has his friend Mark, who we've never heard of before and won't hear of again, much like Logan and all the other people. This is like a kindergartner telling a story. And then my friend Logan, sometimes he came over and played video games with us. And Mark, my friend Mark, he came over to me when my movie was playing, and he told me, look, the people like it. He was able to speak through Mark the way that people laughed and got a jump scare at this movie. So that kind of douche chili, James.
Yeah, okay. I agree, but very much so. Oh, you said there's no audio clips.
Yeah, he could even say that he's proud of this movie, but the way that he talks about everyone loving this in the audience, and somehow there's a way you can do it without sounding like a douche nozzle, but you didn't do it here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like he like you said, he gave us a little bit of peek and insight in the last chapter to the nerd. He's totally breadcrumbing us along with the nerd parts. Because then, yeah, like you said, he remade another film of his old films. He's lifting plots from his old films now.
Well, when you've got 100 of them, it's you got to recycle some of those 100. He's like went past his peak of creativity here at 21. He blew his load there on this 6 Snicks flicks, I believe.
Yeah, that's creativity peaked in his teen years, and now he's a retired 90-year-old at 40. So like he's filming this movie. They do a Indiana Jones style scene where he's like taking the cat statue, and they had to dig a hole because the guy was like grave robbing, and so they did it in his backyard.
Oh yes, he was very proud of this hole and the technical how to get this hole there. That he spent way much more time on the technicalities of digging a hole in the forest behind his house than he needed to.
And then he says he sent the film off to get it developed, and it was all black. And they couldn't figure out why, like if the shutters stayed shut or if the film was bad or whatever the case. Oh, and we did maybe not. I'll get to it.
That might be a senior film, because that is indeed the next chapter. I didn't take notes on the actual film, and this is another one. Both junior and senior film, chapter 4G.
Chapter 4G, senior film.
I pulled no audio of that. I think my brain just kind of half turned off because I'm like, for fuck's sake.
This is where I started getting extreme fatigue from this guy in this chapter at this point. He screens his sophomore flimsy film that he was making. He was so stressed out he threw up, and then he got the audience with a jump scare, and somebody gave him pizza after he filmed his sophomore one, junior one.
Yep, I have that too. He was wowed by a fellow student who was like, "I like that. Have another slice."
Yep. Yeah, he was. Yeah, so he got a huge positive reaction. He got a big inflated ego right out of college. Like he was reinforcing that destiny, I'm going to be somebody great attitude, and the college was helping. He's the dean assistant. Like, he can look back at his life and be like, I was all these great things. And really, there's not as much to show for it as there could have been. And that's where the big criticism comes in. It's like, dude,
we
you were
should be on
provided a
his
lot of
side
opportunity.
with
Yeah.
all these great things. We were on his side for the first like decade of his career until until the movie. Like, that's hopefully he'll get. I doubt he will get into how the movie really broke him as an artist. But yeah, for these films, I have. Oh, the senior film, Gina Returns. George and Gina from freshman year. Gina returned in the senior film subsection, and she informed James of the Blue Hole urban legend. So that's what James's senior film was about, was this blue hole. Also in the senior film, James pats himself on the back for switching over to digital rather than actual film stock, because it's expensive and a bit harder to work with. So that was another himself of digital. Here.
He was renting out his camera because all the other film students. He goes on to say he started a trend, or maybe started that trend of switching from film to digital. Just because you did it first doesn't mean you pioneered it, dude. You did not. We would have went there eventually.
He did talk about how he started the trend locally to move to digital rather than film stock.
Yeah, exactly. This is where I really am getting frustrated with James as a person. Like, before, it was kind of excusable. It was just a kid writing about kid stories, like you said. And then, just like telling one thing after another. It's another whole movie. Because it's an urban legend, and he wants to go see the hole in the ground.
I believe right here where we're at is the tap out point for a lot of fucking people. This sophomore, junior, senior film. This is like a tap out point of motherfucker. I've invested this much, and you're doing this to me when we get to the good parts. Fucking hell. And we have a beloved chatter. Let's see, how would I pronounce that? I'm sorry, my whiteness is getting in the way. Does anyone get the feeling that James's parents are hardcore conservative religious types? They were definitely like old. They feel like older parents. I don't think they are, but like James doesn't mention religion. Sheltered. They do seem like sheltered people. Religious, possibly, but absolutely feel like sheltered people with a sheltered son.
Yeah, I think there would have been a story about church if they were devout like that he would have had a church story about saying something silly in silence. Thank you, Sam Bibley.
Sam Bibley's trying to help me out. Shazira Kora. We're hopefully I and my buddy Sam Bibley pronounce that correctly. Yeah, right here is where the wall was hit. Chapter in the middle of chapter 4. I'm feeling it right now. Let's go ahead and get through these last couple bits so we can call this a day, because this is the most torturous chapter. Well, maybe this isn't the most torturous chapter, but the fact that we've had this build-up for 173 pages and it's still led to fucking nothing makes this chapter seem worse than the other ones to me.
Yeah, because we were expecting more, even from the chapter title. It's his 20s. Okay, let's get away from the school stuff, because it really doesn't mean much.
It means like where you met Bootsy and Mike. Yes, and sure, you include some of that shit, but for fuck's sake.
Chapter 4H, Breakup.
I do like the way that this is titled, because it makes James sound like such a romantic loser that his first breakup somehow came before his first relationship. But James isn't that unlucky. He did get himself a girlfriend thanks to, well, actually, first, before he got a girlfriend, he was having second thoughts of like, do filmmakers even get women?
Right.
So I was in my last year of college and still never had a girlfriend. I figured filmmaking doesn't attract girls. They're into guys who play music. So that was it. I had to start a band.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Shouldn't have ever done that. Actually, I ran away from the Gina material sooner than I should have. Gina, when introducing James to the Blue Hole urban legend, let's go out in the middle of the woods and do this things ourselves. Gina went out by herself. James had something come up. I don't know, but then went there all alone. And this is surrounded by, at this point, by, I wish I had a girl. I wish I had a girl. Gina asked me to go in the middle of the woods with her to the scary location, but I didn't make it. I went solo. I wish I had a girl. I wish I had a girl.
Yeah, he does a couple times. Inadvertently, you get that where he was, and this is my issue. I'm not gonna bag on him too bad for it, but I'm dense when it comes to that. Like, the same scenario could have happened to me, and I would have been like, "Oh, that's a cool asshole. So what do you want to do next? Go see a movie?" You know what I mean? Like, how it wouldn't have dawned on me, especially in my 20s, that girls are flirting with me. Like, there's a weird, like, my brain is just like, and it hits my skull and radiates off. You know.
I have that same disability as well, to realize that, oh, I should have flirted back with her like hours later, the next day.
Yeah, I think we've had that conversation before. You and I were like, "Oh, just dude, how many opportunities we missed?" Because I'm just like, "Oh, that's a cool bowl of peanuts over there. I'm gonna go eat."
But if I were to write that, I would write it in a series of errors. There is, especially here in Somewhere. I had that good batting average with ladies out in Los Angeles, but it is absolute silliness of how I can't get ladies here in the middle of Somewhere. Well, I can get them, but I am not attracted to them. I'm either going to have to move to where all the other weird ladies are, or I'm going to have to get some erectile assistance, because they're every single one here that is interested in me. Physically, nope. So we actually should be on James's level and on his side here of like, yeah, I get it, but he's just written it all wrong. He sounds like a whiny little bitch instead of a character in a comedy of errors, as I would write it.
Right. This is more of it's Big Baby James and his babe woes, because he's crying a lot in this little subsection here.
Well, luckily, James has got a strategy. James is going to start a band, and let's go to this audio clip. How did that work out?
The band didn't actually help me meet girls, but regardless, a friend set me up on a series of dates with a girl he knew.
Wait, a series of dates? Did the girl owe him the guy who set him up? Like, all right, she lost a bet. You owe this guy a series of dates.
It seems like that this friend, anyone who read Cyrano de Bergerac in high school, that's where my mind immediately went. Was the fact that you got this guy puppeteering the guy, and
Still couldn't pull it off.
I'm losing my train of thought. There has been too much stupidity. I don't know if I can keep finishing my sentences.
Yeah, this is exactly what was happening to me. There's some sort of weird brain cloud that happens listening to James talk for too long.
And it might have to do with that monotone voice, which Sam Bibley, he is that much of a dork. It's not a put on deadpan delivery. This is just James.
Yeah.
How much more do we have? We're in H. We're going to I today. We're going to I today. Holy fuck. And we're only a little past halfway done this book. This was the point where we're like, this book is going to get good. We're all over with the college stuff. Is he going to be talking about college shit in the last chapter when it's supposed to be about his big old movie? Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm gonna go and get me a 9-volt battery and just hold it on my tongue for the next 2 weeks instead of do another episode of this. Fuck.
Man, I know it's getting rough. I'm curious to see where it goes.
It was supposed to get less rough as it went along. It didn't.
Yeah, I know, and he just keeps telling these weird stories. And one of them when he was at the Blue Lagoon, he started letting his imagination run. There's skeletons buried in here, and blah blah blah. And so his senior project is about a guy who is dealing with the rationality of reality versus what he wants to have as reality.
My mind started just going into snow at that point. Just white noise. When he started, I recognized some of what you're talking about, but my mind just fucking turned off when he started talking about this plot.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think it was a self-insert plot where, like my dragon in my dreams, he walks around the city late at night, like he was mentioning. I just like to walk around Philly for miles on end. I think he just does that, walks around and like imagines, like a child, a building turning into a monster and devouring people. Like he just doesn't get out of that gear.
That was the very first thing from the book. What was his dream of the dragon coming to life? The dream sequence that started this out. Oh, I'm getting angrier at this book all the time.
Yeah, woe is Bim. And he does get a girlfriend. That's where we were at. He was dating a girl. I can't remember if he mentions the name of her or not. I don't think he does, but he does.
No, he doesn't. Of all the random people whose names he mentioned, this first girlfriend is just first girlfriend. We get nothing about her as well. Just that the bandmate set it up, and he's reflecting on how maybe he didn't do a great job. Oh, actually, there's an audio cut here in this last clip I played. It's very awkward.
The band didn't actually help me meet girls, but regardless, a friend set me up on a series of dates with a girl he knew.
Maybe it's not as obvious. I thought it was kind of obvious that they were two different takes. As I'm listening to it now, maybe I was just trying to reach for something that isn't obviously there. Just trying to entertain myself as this book goes along. So the breakup, it didn't seem that affected James. It was once she started dating someone else that depressed James, and his entire senior year was sullied by his depression. Even graduation day was a sad experience because months ago, his first ex broke up with him. And that's why you want your first one to be in your teens, when it's more acceptable to be such a sad sack for an entire year.
And that's what really gets to a year. You went on a date. This was probably a month or two at best. Maybe I'll give him 6 months. We'll say it was the last half of senior year. He didn't get upset. He got emotionally triggered after somebody told her she was dating somebody else, and he got mad because he felt like she left him for somebody else, and like that hurt. Like if she broke up with him for nobody, it wasn't him, but he lost a girl to another guy, and it's like, oh, lizard brain, I'm angry, and he's returned. Yeah, he's.
And we get another appearance. We get the third appearance of a version of James I was hoping we would see again, because he gets so depressed. Let's hear how depressed he gets.
One night, I decided to drink a lot of hard liquor and lay down on the railroad tracks. What was I thinking? Was I actually planning to let a train run me over? In all likelihood, I would have probably just gotten up, but a neighbor friend came over and dragged me away.
I'm glad you got
James
me out of that.
Makes his third appearance. I've been eagle-eyed for any self-harm, because that was one of the things over on the Cinemassacre Truth subreddit that got me fascinated. The guy pulled the two different parts before this, where he talked about suicide just very randomly and inappropriately. Another thing that's making you sound like a child. You're unable to your emotions. They're all stupid, and you don't know what to do with them. You're a child.
Exactly. I think he has no control over that. And this is also part of what makes me wonder why Bootsy and Mike, they kept him around because he was their personal entertainment, I think, to some degree. You know, like, let's get James drunk and watch him party, you know?
You're thinking he was the entertainment. I was actually going to take it down a more innocent road of those. You got the same references with some friends that it's like, all right, he's the weird guy, but he's gonna drop this fucking quote that's gonna make us die laughing. Whereas you're taking it to a less friendly side of like, oh, this is the guy that puked all over himself. Oh fuck yeah, Mr. Puke all over himself, come back.
I'm that's a little, now that you're repeating it back to me, maybe I am being a little, I don't think Bootsy and Mike are that sinister. You're right. They were just probably a bunch of dorks that sat around drinking. They just weren't as successful with ladies because we're all shy at some point, and some people bloom later than others. Like you mentioned, it is much easier to get over your ridiculous emotions over women in your teens when you're all still boys and girls. You know, it's a maturity thing.
I actually did skip over a fun anecdote somewhere in here. After the vodka incident, James and Mike were stumbling home drunk from the bar, and James had to carry Mike home to a certain point, and then Mike recovered, and James was too sloppy drunk, and then Mike picked James up. Through this entire first part of chapter 4, that was the most legit entertaining thing. I didn't pull it because we're on the road of the entertaining for the wrong reasons clips that we're pulling.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Mike walked into a parking meter and busted his face, and so James had to take him to the house. But then by the time James got to his house, he was so drunk that he couldn't walk anymore, and James had to help him up Mike had to help James up the stairs.
An amusing story, and just little pellets, just breadcrumbs, as you said.
Yep.
Little by little, giving us stuff that we actually want to read about instead of an actually fun read. And Sam Bibley pointing out, you got to remember the time and place. Both Bootsy and Mike were probably like Revenge of the Nerds style, not popular guys as well. This is before the nerds really did take over, like the Revenge of the Nerd song warned us about.
Yeah,
put us down.
This is
one of these days we'll turn it around. Won't be long. Mark my words. One of these days it's Revenge of the Nerds. That didn't happen yet.
No, not in 2003-ish, 2004. Because he still keeps putting the dates after things. And there's something I want to mention before we leave, because he was talking about film school a lot with a little bit of bitterness, like having to cut film, actual film, and do real editing. And they made him watch a movie called Wavelength. And it's a short film. And it's a single shot of an apartment, and a lady answers the phone. But he was like, if you want to watch a film about a wall for 40 minutes, it's called Wavelength, 1967. And he had he totally missed the metaphors and what it was about, and like building it for himself. He just like shit on a movie that's made by a guy who's made other famous, art house movies.
I didn't get shown that in my film class. I was aware of it because others had seen it, but yeah, it's something for discussion. And James, just a stupid fucking wall.
Yeah, exactly.
When he was talking about metaphors, man, just a chapter ago.
That's what I mean. Like he was like trying to be that, and then just shit on it when he was told to watch it. And I watched it yesterday, just about all 40 minutes of it. I skipped through some of the midsection because it's just a long shot with a slow zoom. And I
believe
there's an interesting little
Warhol had one just like that, where it was like 12 or 18 hours of just a static shot of one of the New York skyscrapers.
Empire, yeah. It was a 12-hour shot of the Empire State Building overnight. Yeah, so like I'm not even a film nerd, and I know about these kinds of things,
Yeah, we were at the point. I did read on to chapter 4I.
Chapter 4I, a
Oh.
prelude to the nerd.
One more thing about his emotional incapacities.
Yes.
He showed the Blue Lagoon movie. I forget what he called it exactly.
The Blue Hole, to be exact.
Jersey's Odysseys or something like that. New Jersey.
Yeah, saying
Odysseys.
Blue Lagoon might make people think of the Black Lagoon
Actual
movie.
Yeah. But he mentions that he was going to put "I love you" to that girl that broke up with him in the end credits, and then it turns out that some other person in the film school did the exact same thing with the exact same name, putting "I love you" with the and in the book he makes it sound like it's two girls with the exact, like Cindy Smith. Like there could have been two Cindy Smiths.
I just pictured that it was the first name. I love you, Jessica, or whatever. I didn't picture the entire name.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. I'm overthinking it. I thought it would be like, "I love you, Cindy Smith, thank you," and then he's like, "Oh fuck, some other asshole," and it made him.
But that did trigger James in the senior film final festival or screening, whatever the hell you would call it. That at a little emotional breakdown. Thank you, girlfriend's name. And once again, that reminds us that he never mentioned her name because it was the same name as my ex-girlfriend. Not Jessica,
Yeah, he didn't want
April,
to.
Not Melissa.
Little things like that, just little things like that make me laugh. Like he won't, if he doesn't like you, he ain't going to give you a mention.
This time I just wanted to fart in the wind and do something dumb, so I turned to something familiar, something from the past.
So obviously, those who are reading this are reminded of Kyle Justin's song, "Gonna Take You Back to the Past." But just from this narrative, going back to the past, that's all you fucking done. You just remade A Night of Total Terror again. You made 6 snicks, flicks, dicks up the ass. So you've gone back to the past multiple times. For that specific reference to the Kyle Justin song, thumbs up, but in the context of this book, thumbs down. And he finally stops being pretentious and just makes some fuck it thing. And that's what blows up. Of course, years down the line, oh my God, how much longer are we going to have in the before he actually starts blowing up? Once again, I was like, we're at the point where we're going to pick it up, and this is stuff we want to hear about the angry video game nerd. That's not where we're going to pick up next time, is it?
I called this subchapter "Nubile Nerd" because he called it "Prelude to a Nerd." But yeah, it's like this is the part where he bursts out what was going on at the time in his life. So basically, this breakup was the emotional catalyst he needed to eviscerate Castlevania 2. He's at home, he's drinking, he's upset, and he again has to film something because that's his outlet. He films. He goes into the closet, and inside a shoebox is a bunch of NES games. And so he sits down, he starts recording the gameplay with a VCR, and then letting the game have it, AVGN style. Oh, he mentions drinking 6 beers in an hour.
Gotten to this earlier because I was ready for this after he introduced Mike Matei. He just gave us 3-4 bullshit subchapters, and now we barely even care at this point.
To make it funny,
and here's what you were talking about. I hate your book, James. Why am I not happy about presenting this clip to people? Why am I like, finally he got there? Fuck you, James.
To make it funny, I had to take it seriously. I had to be convincing. Like this game was really upsetting me, even though it came out decades ago. I was portraying a character, yet it was close to reality. I really was depressed.
That gave me a giggle too. But your character is angry. He's not depressed. So he's really
I decided the nerd
into the method acting, as you said,
would be drunk. I happened to have a 6-pack of Rolling Rock, so I drank it all in less than an hour. I had a rough script, but I let the alcohol do most of the talking. I slurred and had long pauses. I was a sloppy mess, but this was the character. Some method acting.
Some method acting.
So Mike and Bootsy
He
get
does-
copies of this bad NES, as it was known at the time, and they did the Jerky Boys thing with it. They made their own copies and gave it to other friends because they're like, "This is some good shit." I'm kind of fascinated to hear about that, of the underground movement of this going from VCR to VCR up until he's got to give Mike the credit. We all know that it was Mike that uploaded it to YouTube, right? So,
right.
At this
And that's,
point-
I don't think he does give Mike any credit.
at this point, we are just complaining about what is yet to come. At least I am. We're over halfway, and it's been about 10 minutes, it feels like. I'm complaining about what is yet to come. We finally got the chapter on the very first nerd video. How does this chapter all about the angry video game nerd end?
Meanwhile, I made peace with my ex-girlfriend. I had a final phone conversation, which started with me crying and venting.
It ends with him making peace with the girlfriend. He rambles on for a bit where she was like, for fuck's sake, find another girl.
Yeah, basically. Like, quit texting me. I'm sorry.
So this is the end of the show for now. It's
It's getting it.
intensely
I can tell.
frustrating. This is the chapter that just took all of our passion away. It's dull. It is no bueno. I'm out of words.
Okay, good. You don't admit certain things in a book. You just don't, and that's what the editor is there for, to help you. I don't know, man, because it's not. It's like written in chronological order. It gets annoying because it's in chronological order. Like you said, he mentions Bootsy and Mike and drinking and hanging out and puking on himself, and then jumps back to the films, and then this girl that kind of liked him but didn't like him, and how that
you can even admit some of these. I mean, if I'm going to write my own book, I have to admit that, yeah, I was a loser at going out for a while. Let's tell it in an amusing way how I discovered myself. This is actually a great piece to show how not to write a book. I've thought of it several times throughout reading this, of if I were to write my autobiography, this is a nice tip of what not to do.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's an example for somebody, I hope. Because remember, at the beginning of the book, he was, I hope somebody finds inspiration in these chapters. Somebody's going to find inspiration to tie themselves down to the train track.
Yeah, get yourself a Boy Scout to tie himself down to a train track. And those are some intricate knots. If I don't have a knife on me, you're done. Well done, Boy Scout who tied himself to the tracks.
What was I going to do? Just going to lay there and get smashed? Yeah, you know you weren't. But like you said, 3 times with that, and I think he said he had to get anxiety medication after the breakup. Like that, it was, things were getting to him so much that he went to the doctor and got medicated for it.
I do believe he mentioned that. In last night's bonus episode, for people who are rope shooters, Rini was there with me. I did actually get into a little bit of when I was a stand-up comic and turned my suicidal idealizations, fantasies into a comedy bit. So that's another thing that just had me reflect. Oh, maybe that would be mentioned in my book. Was a struggle of overcoming those fantasies, but no, James just drops them in here. I felt bad. I wanted to die without any actual substance behind those.
Right, exactly. It's vapid teenage emotions. Oh, I can't borrow the car. I'm going to kill myself. You know, it does come off that way a lot, especially with the girlfriend from late in film school. He was just like, she left me for somebody else. Oh, but it was okay when she just dumped you for nothing. You know, like it just, I wonder if that's how people have to be while working around him, if they are going to trigger him in some way. But at the same time, I don't think he's like that professionally.
I think professionally he is he definitely is not as good as he thinks he is. I'm curious. I'm curious. I would like Screenwave to release a behind the scenes. Well then he won't be true him, no, having a camera there. Whatever. James, fuck you. This might be about the fifth or sixth time I've said this. Oh, such a terrible, what is it, 300 pages, 250 pages, fuck,
Yeah,
whatever it is,
290 something.
We made the commitment. We are self-harming ourselves at this point. This book it needs to be done over again. No one should ever read this. Any plugs with that happy note? Plugs. Spurg Snake does some gaming streams and some music streams over on Spurg Snake's Secret Stash. Give those a little mention.
Yeah, if the electricity works, this past Monday the power went out during the stream. It's cold here in the Midwest right now. It's even colder in the southern part of the country. But yeah, Family Feud and Wheel of Fortune and a little bit of Jeopardy. I'm going to work that in there sometime, somehow. That's Monday nights and at 9:30 to midnight, Monday nights. That become my new slot.
Eastern.
And, yeah, Eastern time, thank you. And I just did 2 Oingo Boingo playlists. Like, I was just listening. It's all Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman stuff. That's recent. And coming up in February, I will be hanging out with Annie Orion for What Is This Game? We will be talking about Disco Elysium. And tomorrow, I will be hanging out with some guy on his panel show looking at TikTok boobies.
And that'll be right here on this channel. I'm doing Live from Somewhere Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And that is our regular stream time, Wednesday and Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. I've got another show concept, but let me work out the kinks before I start announcing stuff here, but before it's proper to announce them. I am Dylan from Somewhere, and you can give this a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to help this channel out. Monetarily, there are super chats, super thanks, and members-only content. You can become a rope shooter for $4.99 a month. And my soft strike is going to be over soon. I'm going to try again to do a members-only watch-along with a movie in the public domain. So doing some random nonsense over here at least twice a week, more times a week if you are a rope shooter. Thank you all for joining, and feel free to go away. If you don't come back, I understand that this is getting a bit painful for all of us. Thanks. See you soon.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right to your honey with the right and left date. Grand right and left around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girls. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.